Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Matt, and today I just wanted to talk about what percentage of the content should you understand when you're reading in a foreign language. And I think a lot of people get really caught up on this because there's just this tendency to not want to consume material where you don't understand every single thing. And I think that's a big mistake when you're practicing reading in a foreign language, because very rarely is there going to be an instance where you really understand everything in front of you. And this is really just a part of the language learning process in general. So let's just kind of talk about a couple concepts before, going straight into the answer. But I think that being okay with uncertainty in language learning is very important. There's always going to be instances where you don't understand some of the words in front of you, right? There's so many words out there. There's going to be times where you don't understand grammatical concepts, or just things seem a little bit odd or not very familiar. And being okay with that uncertainty ultimately is going to help you to be a better learner. And you're eventually going to have to get okay with that uncertainty if you really want to make big gains, right? Because sticking with that beginner material, sticking with material where you understand nearly everything, is not going to be as beneficial versus going after material that's a little bit more harder, complicated, what have you. So you really need to be okay with this uncertainty. And this applies to reading, right? Because when you are reading in a foreign language, the whole language is on display, right? Every single grammatical structure is there, right? Every tense, irregularities, all these things, and then a ton of words. And a lot of the words, too, may be unfamiliar if you're reading about a subject that you just don't know a lot of the words, in that kind of vocabulary group or something along those lines. And even then, you'll see the odd thrown word out there that you just don't know. And also with reading, typically the amount of words and the variety of words that you see is a lot greater than when you're kind of listening and just talking in average, ordinary conversations, right? The vocabulary that people use when talking to others is generally a lot lower than what you see in reading, right? Especially with stuff like literature. So with just that being kind of set up, you start to see that there's just going to be instances where you just don't understand every single thing thrown at you. And you want to be okay with that idea, right? Because ultimately we want to be reading content that we enjoy, right? That we find compelling, or at least that's helping us to get to a place where we can improve in our foreign language skills, right? Now, of course, you can read very beginner stories, right? Maybe they're a short story out of like an exercise book and stuff. And while that can be beneficial, I do think that eventually you want to get past that and really start consuming things that you enjoy or are a little bit more compelling, right? Whether that's like a newspaper, whether that's a fiction book or what have you. So I think that once you get to that place and you're kind of committed to wanting to consume more compelling content, you're going to have to run into that struggle. Now, with that being said, I think a lot of people, when they start consuming some of this content, they get really hung up on not understanding everything in front of them, right? Maybe they read a sentence and they don't know 2 or 3 of the words in the sentence, or they'll see grammatical structures that they're just very unfamiliar with, or it just doesn't make sense why a sentence is framed a certain way. And I think the key is just to be okay with that and just to keep plowing through, right? Try to understand every single sentence. But if you don't understand the meaning, just keep going, keep reading. And what you'll find is that it's just helping to get your brain acclimated. And it's also kind of helping you to just, be okay with that, that uncertainty, that not familiarity. And overall, you're going to be learning and learning and learning. And the more that you read, the better that you'll get at it. So basically, right, if you just keep reading, there's going to be times where you have no idea what that last sentence was, but then the next sentence, boom, you understand it, everything's good, right? And then this is kind of where, you just get better and better at this skill, right? Because very rarely are you going to get to a point, unless you get to the very, advanced level, are you going to understand everything in front of you. So to really enjoy reading, I think the key is just be okay with not understanding every single thing that's out there. Now, that being said, what percentage of stuff should you understand? Well, I think that, a good percentage is good, right? You don't want every single word, in the sentence for you, like, just have no concept of what's going on, right? Some sentences will definitely be more difficult than others, but generally you don't want it to be so much where you understand, 20% of the words, right? I do think that generally speaking, somewhere around maybe 75% of the words that you kind of understand or at least are familiar with is a good number. Maybe at least 50%, but I would probably, err on the side of maybe 75%, 80%, somewhere around there, right? So if you think about it, like if you understand about 90% of the words, that's really good. It's a good number for understanding what's being said in the thing that you're reading, right? 90% is very good. 80% is pretty good. It's a little bit challenging. And then 50% very challenging, right? I would not go under 50%. And so if you're reading content that maybe is, really pretty difficult and you're not really getting to that percentage of comprehension, then I think at that point, try to acquire some more words, or go into some easier content or some just different subjects that maybe you understand more of the words being said. So I think that's the key, right? Try to aim for those percentages and be okay that you're not getting that 100% or 98%, because you're going to get so much out of reading in the end of the day. Reading is just huge for vocabulary acquisition, for learning and being familiar with grammatical structures, and just overall reading comprehension. So it's super important. It's super beneficial. And if you're not reading now, it's just a great way to elevate your language learning. So what do you think? How do you use reading in language learning? Leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.